I got a big ego, such a huge ego. Yeah, I love my big ego. Y'all remember that Beyonce song? It's too big, it's too wide, it's too strong, it won't fit. Whatever she used to say. How many of you know that big old ego is what is stopping you and inhibiting you from reprogramming that subconscious mind and transforming and ascending to who you are supposed to be? Yes, that is right. It's your girl D-Ray, the Divine Relationship Alchemist, helping you heal your relationship with self to heal your relationship with others. This ego, right? As my favorite teacher, Spiritual Guidance by Nicole, says, this ego, our human, is what is inhibiting us from transforming our subconscious mind, reprogramming the subconscious mind, and becoming anew, right? Your ego is great. You need your ego, right? You need your ego. Your ego protects your soul. The problem is the ego has become the leader, the trailblazer, the end all and be all, right? And so the relationship between soul and ego is backwards, right? The soul is supposed to lead and direct the ego so that we can manifest our purpose, so that we can transform, so that we can learn the lessons that we are supposed to learn. That's what's supposed to happen. But we're out of balance. Okay? On this journey as an enlightened being, as a growing being, expanding in consciousness, we are learning that we must surrender the ego to let our soul come through and do what it needs to do to evolve and learn the lessons that it needs to learn before returning back to the all, before returning to our greatest greatness, right? But for the majority, we've gotten out of balance, right? We've let our animal nature, our human nature, be the leader of our soul. And this is what it means when they say you sleep, right? Your soul is asleep. Your soul is not awakened and aware to what's going on, right? That's what it means to be asleep. What it means to be woke on a deeper level, on a soul level, means your soul has awakened and you are letting your soul be the leader. You're letting your soul guide you in navigating this earthly human existence. Because we all understand we are a soul. We are a soul, right? We have a spirit. We live in a body, all right? The ego is directly connected to our human body, to our human existence, right? Okay? And so we've gotten out of balance, right? Most of us are existing from an ego human standpoint. We're letting our ego dictate what we do, dictate how we act, dictate the professions that we dive into, dictate the relationships that we're in, dictate how we treat and engage with other people. Okay? This is a problem. Beyonce talking about she got a big ego. I'm sure she's learned now that big ego, it only can get you so far, right? And so we have to learn to surrender the ego. The ego functions from a space of survival, right? Fight or flight. Not only your physical survival, meaning living. This is why the ego is important, because the ego protects the soul. The ego is what allows you to complete that mission, right? If you did not have your ego, your soul would be out here trying to experience everything, right? And ending the existence that you have here maybe a little bit too soon. Because the ego, it's above polarity, it's above duality, right? There is no such thing as good or bad, evil and good, whatever. Like, none of that exists. The soul is just here for the experience so that it can gain all of this knowledge, all of this wisdom to return back to its greatest greatness, right? So the ego is there so that our experiences are meticulous in that growth, right? And so Yes, we have to learn to surrender the ego. The ego is also afraid of identity deaths, right? The death of who you think you are, what you think you know, what you think defines you, right? And so that's a whole nother issue, right? Because a lot of times we're not in physical threatening situations, right? Sometimes we have those situations. It's a stray dog out here. Ego perks up like, oh, watch that dog. You might got to run. Or let's say you're in a car and a car swerves and you got to kind of swerve to protect yourself. That's ego, right? That's for physical survival. But what I noticed myself this week, is that my ego is also trying to survive criticism. My ego is also trying to survive change. My ego is also trying to survive in just difficult situations to where I have to determine, am I going to rise up and transform and be my best self, or am I going to stay the same? Your ego does not mind staying the same. Your ego is coming from a space that's like, look, we still living, we here, we ain't dead. Something must be working out, right? That's ego, right? And so your big ego, your super ego, as Beyonce says, has the ability to also keep you in the same state of being, the same thinking, the same consciousness level. All right? And so as we are on this spiritual journey, having this human experience, see, spiritual journey, this is a soul journey first, having this human experience, we have to communicate with ourself, with our ego, and say, self, I understand that you want to survive and that you want us to be here for many, many years, right? I understand that you don't necessarily understand the concept of transformation, right? But me, the soul, the essence of who I am that I am, the Alpha and the Omega, the part of me that never dies. That's what we got to understand. We got to get the ego to understand we never die. We just transform. Okay? And so with that being said, there are some thought processes that do have to die, right? There are some thought patterns that have to die. There is some subconscious programming that must be transmuted and transformed in order for us to live our best lives, in order for us to complete the purpose that we have been sent here to complete, right? But see, our ego gets in the way of that because our ego is fear-based. All right? But if we can transform the relationship between our soul and our ego and let our soul step in and do and awaken our soul, light that fire in our soul, create a spiritual practice so that we open up the space for our soul to communicate with our ego and get our ego on board, now we're in a place of really mastering or being the master student, as my love would say, right? Because we're always having experiences. The problem is that we judge those experiences as good or bad. That's an ego thing. Judging an experience as good or bad instead of looking at the experience holistically, right? And learning whatever we were supposed to learn to add to our soul, our spiritual toolbox, right? So what I've been practicing myself during this time of understanding the dance between the ego and the soul is really practicing discernment. Thank you, Spiritual Guidance by Nicole. Y'all go check out her YouTube page. She's amazing, right? I've been remaining in a curious state of being, right? What do I mean by that? I mean, in the experiences that I have, whether they feel low vibration or high vibration, whether my ego perceives it to be positive and negative, I've been just taking a moment and pausing, right? As I'm engaging with people on a regular basis, as I'm, reading or whatever I'm doing, I'm pausing in those moments so that I give way for my soul, my spirit to come through and let me know what I'm supposed to be learning in this moment, right? That needs to be a regular practice. That needs to be a life practice. That needs to be a soul practice. That needs to be a spiritual practice, right? So my challenge for you today, my tip for you today in terms of reprogramming your subconscious mind, right? It's first, you have to surrender your ego so that you can actually learn the lesson that you need to learn in every experience, right? Because when we're learning, we're adding to our spiritual toolbox, we're expanding our mind, we're expanding our consciousness, we're expanding our being, all right? So in all of these experiences that you're having daily, one, be in the now, right? And when you have an experience, let's try not to be overthinking what's going on, because that's what happens. We start overthinking what's going on. What I want you to actually do, and what I'm actually doing, is pausing and tapping into my feelings. How do I feel right now about what's going on, right? Do I feel content? Do I feel satisfied? Do I feel do I feel fear? What do I feel? Because when we can understand how we feel in those moments, then we can understand what our thought processes are and what our belief systems are regarding the situation that we're in. Your feelings let you know. Your feelings let you know what your thoughts are, right? If your thoughts are positive, if they're enlightened, if they're high vibrational, then you will feel high vibrational. If your thoughts are low vibration, if they're fear-based, then you will feel emotions that are fear-based and that are low vibrational. So when we do that, we can investigate our thoughts. So we pause. That's the first thing. Pause. The second thing is tap into your feelings. How are you feeling? The third thing is, what are the thoughts that you're having, right? And now when we know our thoughts regarding the situations that we're in, now we can investigate how we need to tweak those thoughts to come back into high vibrations. All right? So in terms of reprogramming the subconscious mind, one, you have to first surrender that ego, meaning not react so quickly in situations, right? That first response that you do, that's ego, right? Your soul response, your spiritual response is going to come after that when you give space for it to actually come through, okay? So respond, not react. Pause. Give yourself a moment to actually process what's going on. Ask your spirit for guidance. Ask your spirit for guidance on how to deal with whatever situation you're in, right? And when you give yourself that space, the answer will come. The information that you need will come, all right? And then when you get that information, or when you give yourself that pause and the feelings come up, now you can investigate the belief system, the thought process that you have regarding the situation that you're in. And then from that moment, you can take action to reprogram that. But if you don't know what needs to be reprogrammed, how can you change, right? That's ego. Your ego is afraid of change. Your human is afraid of transformation, right? So you have to give way, give space for yourself to actually do that work. Love you guys. Peace.